Hey everyone, thanks for coming in. It's Corey of Blue Falcon Board Gaming. If you're new to the channel, I'm a United States Marine Corps veteran that started the Blue Falcon Board Gaming Group in the Ohio, Kentucky, West Virginia tri state area with the hopes of promoting positive mental health and promoting board games to the community and making them more accessible by hosting and co hosting free events. Today, I've got Hannah with me. Hannah, welcome.
Thank you. Lucky to be here.
Yeah, my favorite artist.
I'm probably
I
your only artist, so it's a little biased.
I might be a little biased because you're doing the art for my game, but no, I love your art and stuff, especially with Trash Call.
So I am my 9 to 5. I work as a branch artist and senior graphic designer for Piatto Italian Street Food. I've been in the food industry for roughly 4.5, 5 years. Outside of that, I am co-owners with Joseph Owens of FoxHen Creatives. So that actually started as a webcomic, and we quickly were like, I don't think I want to do a webcomic. We want to just make art that we can just be more flexible with. Instead of continuing one storyline, we can make collections of illustrations. So we ended up going into like merch and prints, and so now my weekends are all art shows or fairs or conventions of some sort.
So how did that kind of, how did you guys meet up to start that and start to collaborate on that?
Yeah, we went to Lorraine County Community College together. I was going to start my undergrad, and Joe, after he finished his undergrad at OSU, he was figuring out what direction he really wanted to go in with art or business or what have you. And we ended up starting the Unity Club together, which was a student-run design agency that had, off the top of my head, I think it was 11 artists slash designers that all worked on real life projects to give this community college group some real foundation for when they graduated with just a 2 year degree, they'd be able to just work rather than having to necessarily continue their education to a higher level and get more in debt, or have to do like unpaid internships. So we ended up, um, after kind of rounding out the Unity lab, we worked on enough projects together that we're like, you know what, this works. We should do more stuff together. And since then, it's been a working friendship.
Gotcha. So yeah, what kind of stuff's on your all's merch store on there?
So we've got right now, like large scale prints. We've got some apparel. We kind of flex that, whether it's t-shirts or hoodies sell really well for us. We've done some pins, some smaller like acrylic pieces, greeting cards. We went through that phase, a bunch of stickers, and all those things tend to kind of flex well into the gaming industry as far as how those illustrations flip over, which has been really nice for us.
Yeah. So what was your introduction into board games? How did you get into the hobby, maybe more particularly the modern hobby?
Yeah, I modern hobby is a little bit newer for me. I grew up with board games being just a part of our household, but they were like the classics. Like as a kid, it was Monopoly, Candyland, Shoots and Ladders, Mousetrap, all that good stuff. I am the type that I still love my classic games. Well, classic adjacent. I would call like Five Crowns is like my favorite like card game that I'll still play with my family for hours on end. And that's not quite, like a poker level classic, but it's not quite an indie level game. Um, I didn't super get into indie level games until, let's see, that was 2 years ago now, of listening to this girl when I did portfolio reviews at Sinclair. She was talking about the agency that she now works for, that she's graduated from Sinclair. And her agency works with some games. They worked on Taco. Oh, I get it all mixed up. Taco Cat Goat Cheese Pizza, I think, is the right order. Okay, amongst other games. And I was like, you know what, that sounds like a really cool direction. And I started actually getting more into looking in how to make games before I really got into like, I need a collection of indie games of my own. I was more fascinated with the puzzle of how to like create as someone who is a hobby creator, no matter what realm I end up in. But now, as I'm talking to you, my laptop and phone are sitting on top of 4 board games. So, like, just as a stand that I pulled from my collection. So, I've got enough of them to spare for that.
Yeah, you've got a new background for the interviews. So right now, typically I have a bunch of games behind me and all of that, but we're out at a cabin right now doing a little getaway for the weekend. Wife was going a little bit stir crazy. Both been on parental leave for two months and a week now, I think. And she
Yep.
hasn't got out of the house that much, so she was like, "We need to go do something."
Literally anywhere but here.
Yeah,
Have
yeah.
a
So
nice
we got
backdrop though, you know?
we got the newborn with us, and then mother-in-law has got the older one, and then tomorrow my mom always takes her on Friday and stuff. So it'll give us a little bit of a reprieve, I guess, at least a change of scenery.
Yeah, for sure.
So, how did you decide that you wanted to start designing your own game? You said that you're more interested in that creative process, but like, what was that moment where you're like, I'm going to actually focus on making a game?
Yeah, it started. I made an illustration a while back that was three raccoons praising a little piece of pizza. And then I liked that illustration enough that I made like a collection of them, of these just little animals worshiping food in shrines. And I was with Joe at some talk, and we kind of sidebarred because I was like, "You gotta come out here. I got an idea." And Joe is always the type that he's like, "All right, whatever you got, like just lay it on me." I'm like, "Okay." So this one's gonna be a big one. What if we made a game about the animal cults? And he's like, all right, let's do it. Like, there was no sales pitch involved, just let's do it. So we picked up a bunch of games that we thought mechanically would be like in the realm of what we'd be looking at. And we just had like days and days and days of just like playing all these games and kind of like analyzing them and figuring out what we liked, what we didn't, pulling things from the rules that were like, okay, that makes sense. Or like, I would change this about it to make it like a little more interesting. And we made this just kind of research document about all these different things that we wanted in our dream game. And then we started getting into our prototype process eventually, obviously. But yeah, it all started with just an 11 by 17 illustration of three little raccoons worshiping a slice of pizza.
Which is available on your store, right? That print.
Yes, it is. Yeah, that sticker actually, I ended up making a sticker. That's my like promotional material. So if you ever run into me, I always have stickers on me and ask for them.
So I'm assuming that you're not going to PAX this weekend then, since it's what, tomorrow
No,
technically.
I'm not. Yeah, Joe and I are already pre-booked for an art fair. So we're gonna get rid of some of our stock instead of going out to Philly this time. Next year, though, we'll make some time for it.
Yeah, you're in the Columbus area of Ohio. Are you going or looking at what's the new con that's going on? River City Con. It's the same guys that put on the
Hmm.
Lexington Tabletop Convention and Sin City Con. They're starting one in
Oh,
Louisville called River City Con, and I want to say it's the second week of January, maybe like that Friday, Saturday,
I
Sunday.
haven't put it on my list to go, but I will add it to my list. I was looking for my pen. There we go. Riverside? That
River
is
City Con.
River City.
Yeah, and if you go to the Sin City Con or the Lexington Tabletop Convention site, it's got all of the links and stuff for all their conventions because it's the same like group of staff that run all three of them now.
Yeah,
But I've
and
been to Sin
Louisville's like
City
a hop
Con.
and a skip.
Yeah, I've been to Sin City Con twice now, and the Lexington Tabletop Convention once, and they do a fantastic job with hosting them and everything. And they've got a really good library that they bring for people to check out. They've always got good play to wins, but just super friendly group. It's usually probably 700 to 1,000 people.
That's, yeah, pretty hefty.
Yeah, I had taken my prototype to the Lexington one and I was demoing it, but I didn't tell anybody, like, hey, I'm designing this game and I'm playtesting it, blah, blah, blah. I was just like, hey, can I demo a game for you all? And they were like, yeah, sure. And people were like signing up for the events and they were playing and like they were finishing up scoring. And one guy was like, is this available? Like, can I purchase this? And I was like, dude, you just made my day. Like, you're the first person that has asked me that after playing a game. So it's a good feeling.
You're like, not yet, but I can give you a link to an email list so when it is available.
That's right. And you get your name in the rule book because you play
Yeah.
tested. Surprise.
Hmm.
You didn't know that you were play testing it. So how much play testing have you guys done with Trash Caught? And what's been kind of like your all's feedback?
Yeah, so from the playtesting that Joe and I are directly involved with, of, like if I'm sitting in watching my friends of physical, I know that we have 30 hours of just me sitting there. On top of that, obviously you've playtested the game. I've got my group of remote playtesters in our like Discord. That would take me some time to figure out how much time you all have done collectively. And then on top of that, I've done events. So like Gen Con, Origins, all that good stuff of going sitting down and just sitting back and watching people, which I don't count towards my collective Joe and myself playtesting hours. So that's an additional 35 hours there, something like that, of like really fine tune, not just you play it, you give me a survey, or we chat about it over Discord. So a mix.
Yeah, I've done probably 6 or 7 different groups maybe now that I've introduced it to. Like
Hmm.
we've played the same groups played a couple times and stuff, but as far as like new people and all of that, it's probably been 6 or 7 different ones that I've shown off, and everyone's had good things to say about it. There was a few things that I'd sent you just as far as some wording clarification, but as far as actual gameplay, like everyone's enjoyed it.
I'm so glad. And honestly, that Discord, like having playtesters in Discord is the best thing ever to have like all that feedback kind of condensed from remote playtesters. And also that back and forth of you guys being able, because most of you are designers, of being able to go back and forth and say, like, well, I thought this, and maybe you could do that. Or like this thing could be tweaked just a little, and I think it would make a lot more sense. And Joe and I are normally right at our laptops, like tick, 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 as that's happening, because we're trying to make the changes as soon as you guys are like bringing them in, so that way we can immediately go back and play test. But yeah, I the feedback that I've gotten so far has been good from Gen Con on. I think is real turning point that we started really getting people like, I think you could launch this game now. I would play this with my family. I would bring this to an event, like lots of that kind of feedback that was a confidence booster and why we're now planning our launch. Well, we've been planning it, but like actually having it official, this is our launch day. This is our marketing plan for like meta ads and all that kind of stuff, which is a different kind of journey in the game design world.
Yeah, nobody tells you how much actually goes into making a game that
Yeah.
doesn't
Yeah.
involve designing the game. Like whenever
Luckily
I
enough,
started
like
it, I was
Joe and
like, oh,
I,
I can do this.
yeah, you're like, yeah, I can make a game. And luckily enough, Joe and I, like, we had a business, so we know how to run the business side of it. But still, even then, with like me being in marketing and Joe having more of the business side of things, you're still like, oh, there's a lot of like, I have to figure out international shipping and like going through tax nexuses that we haven't dealt with before and like getting all that back end set up and just like getting pledge managers and all that web and like going to China for manufacturing and having those networks together to get everything moving super smoothly is a lot.
Okay, you guys decided to offer it internationally because, like, with me, I'm like, okay, I'm only going to deal with U.S. for now because I don't want to deal with like all of the VAT and all of the different taxes and all of that for the different countries. Setting up distribution networks in places that I'm not familiar with, like all of that stuff. So that's
we
a big
haven't
undertaking.
we haven't prepared to like where we could go further. What we're planning on doing at launch is US and Canada. We have enough people in Canada that we can figure it out. The other places outside of that is dependent on if our Kickstarter starts going really well and people start asking us like, why don't you ship to X, and we start hearing it a bunch of times, we'll consider opening it up because we have that plan built. It's just not what I'd like to start with on our first game. I want to make sure everyone that does buy our game has the most seamless purchasing experience ever known to man.
Yeah, there's been so much that I wasn't even aware that needed to be done whenever trying to bring a game to market and everything on your own. Has there been
Oh yeah.
any big things that you remember, like the aha, like I never even considered that?
There was. So I am signed up with LaunchBoom now, and there's some stuff in their course modules that they were like talking about that I'm like, oh, I probably should know this because I'm in marketing, but because I'm dealing with my own thing and it's not my industry, I just didn't realize like which way I should build my sales funnel that makes more sense for this industry. Rather than thinking about it like, oh, it's a new restaurant open and people just like free food and I can give them free food, you know? Gaming world's a little different. Got to give them different kind of perks that appeal to that gamer mindset.
Now, is that the? I'm trying to remember because there's been some marketing company that's been involved with a lot of recent Kickstarters, but there's been some like negative feedback and stuff too that I've heard from people. One of them was like offering special tiers, and it's like, hey, there's only 100 of these, but then 2 weeks later, it's like, oh, we've increased this to 250 or 300.
Launchboom's more about getting people that are really invested in the project up front in your email list. So you're offering some exclusive perks in order to get on an email list that you get like, I'm going to send that email first to make sure everyone knows that that Kickstarter is open. You get VIP privileges, but it's not, there's only X number of these or whatever. It's just, I know matching the email that you sent me and you purchased that you get this little thing is the general gist of it.
Gotcha. Yeah, I forget which Kickstarter it was recently, but there was a lot of feedback on that, and I forget the name of the company now that was kind of over it, and they just kept changing the available numbers for each backing and all of this stuff, and
Oh.
it got a lot of people like understandably upset because it's like, hey, there's only 100 of these available, and you're like, oh, I'm gonna go ahead and jump on that, and then a little bit later they're like, hey, JK, there's actually 250 now, because then everyone's like, oh, they're just playing into the FOMO and everything else, like.
Yeah, no, I'm very big on transparency, especially because this is Joe's and my first game. Like out the bat, I opened making this whole project. My first TikTok was we started making this game without having any idea of how to make a game. Like that is the level of transparency from start to finish that I want. If I muck something up in the end, like, ooh, I said that I was supposed to have this many and I actually was supposed to have this many in there, I will then do something for that group that initially purchased because there was only this amount. Because that's not fair to people that thought that they were getting an extra exclusive because it's 100 versus even 110. You know, like you are one of those first 100, so you should get something special because you believed in my project.
Yeah, I think some crazy like early bird stuff too. Like right now, Power Advance just went live. It's from Buddy Pal Games. They're a super small publisher out of Kentucky, and it was like the first 10 maybe or the first 20. It was like $5 for the game, and I mean, there's no way that they're making any money off of that. Like, if anything, they're going to be losing money on that because they've got a neoprene mat as the playboard. It's just the mat and a deck of cards, a few decks of cards. But even then, like $5
Yeah,
is not covering anything.
yeah. I mean, your cogs alone from just like the mat, and your cogs isn't gonna cover the shipping and stuff, but like your international shipping from manufacturer to you if they went international, like yeah, you're you're in the negative on those, which I get if you're just trying to hit your numbers on the first day to try and get like enough people in the door. So Kickstarter is like, ooh, that's a good looking project. But even then you should at least be making, in the black some way, somehow.
Yeah. Yeah, but I've got to play test it quite a bit and stuff. I've got a prototype copy of it. Oh, excuse me.
Mhm.
And it's a fun little deck builder. It's super simple, quick deck builder. It's got a green energy theme and all of this other stuff. But basically, you're just trying to collect. You're trying to collect enough energy points to be able to go into the vault, is what it's called. And it's got those have like better cards in it, and you're just trying to get X amount of energy before the other person. So quick, simple game. I mean, it's not challenge. It's simple. There's a lot of strategy to it, but it's not like burn your brain type thing. It'd be a good entry level type game.
Yeah,
So for anyone that doesn't know about Trash Cult, do you want to give like your little sales pitch on the game
sure,
and what it is and how to play?
sure. I have my box with me because I'm very excited and I just got it in too. So it's a 2 to 4 player game. You're playing as one of the four little animal cults. So you've got squirrels, raccoons, rats, and skunks, and they each worship their own junk food. Depending on the cult you play, that cult has its own perk. So like squirrels can dig through the live deck when you end up sacrificing them. Get back around that to the second. But even if you're playing as a squirrel, you could get the perk of raccoon. The squirrel's just going to be a little bit cheaper for you. So the name of the game is that you're trying to do it's a set collection. If you're playing as a 2 player, you're looking for 6 pieces of the food that you worship and to have someone to worship that food in the end to win. To get ahead, you're going to try to collect other people's food to make sure they don't have it. And also, as you collect hostages, your cult members, and other people's food, you can sacrifice that to get the perk of whatever that cult thing is. When you go ahead and do that, it's going to unleash the Chaos deck. So the Chaos deck has a mix. It's 12 different cards right now. In the Kickstarter, that may change depending on how well it does. And that deck is a mix of positive and negatives. Some things are just kind of net neutral, like we have a Trash NATO, that just everyone that's in that um, chaos that doesn't have like a hide card or something, some way to get out of the chaos deck, throws all their cards in the middle. They get all shuffled around and redistributed, so that way you can't hoard your cards and think that, oh, I'm playing against a raccoon and you want all the pizza? Well, I have all the other pizzas in my hand and you can't have them. So we did a little back and forth with that. I would consider it relatively light on the strategy, but very heavy on the sweet, sweet revenge.
It's a very take that game, and it's funny because some of the groups that I've showed it to, they're not like aggressive with each other. So those first few rounds, like everybody was being super nice and stuff, but then as it kept getting like they just kept going and going, and eventually they were like, all right, well, I got to do this. And then that just opened up the floodgates. After that first person did the one take that, then it opened it up.
Mm-hmm.
And it's
Oh,
funny
those are
too
my
because
favorite playtesters to watch.
yeah, it's funny too because I actually did that scenario. I had all of the pizza, and Randy was needing the pizza, and I had like 6 of them in my hand. And you've added a possum, right? Like a little possum plushie thing.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
we
So what
had
does that do?
so some of our feedback was like, man, these sacrifices could be a little expensive because you get 2 actions per turn. And like an example of an action is that you can put a cult member down. It's another action to then sacrifice that. So you're like, well, if it's my own cult, I can do everything in one turn, but if it's not my cult, I'm gonna have to build up to that sacrifice. So to kind of move the game along a little quicker, we added in a possum plushie, and it's the all-powerful possum plushie, which means it has the magic to be a cheap sacrifice. And when you play that directly out of your hand, you get the sacrifice of whatever one of the cults you want to act upon, which we've seen has definitely sped up the game, and people feel a little better about it because if you have to build up just to kill your people, sometimes people are like, ugh.
So you've been doing all the illustrations for the game as well. Do you want to talk about
Yeah.
any other games that you are also illustrating at the moment? Obviously, you're doing in-house heist for me, but do you have other ones that you can talk about or that you're allowed to talk about?
So I have maxed myself out at 3 games at a time. So my own game, your game, and Ben's game, the Compost Champion, which he is bringing to PAX this weekend. That just wrapped up. His had less components, a little bit easier drawing, so they just kind of shipped off. He has a print and play version of it, as well as he's going to print, I think he said like 30 copies or so, but in that one, you're playing as a worm who is sorting through a compost pile to find all the goodies to make good compost. And whoever gets the most sets to get to 10 points wins. Relatively simple game. Very cute, in my biased opinion.
Or do you have anything that you are like particularly fond of illustrating or a certain style?
So the games that you've seen from me are the realm that I like to be in. I like cute animals. I like food things. I like lots of things that are colorful. My style is naturally pretty cute, so it tends to go in that realm of things that are a little more kid friendly. Or in my case, my game is kid friendly, but it's a little dark. But it's a cute take on dark, you know? So it's got a little bit of that contrast.
So we are coming up on 30 minutes, so I want to not take up all your time. But let's play same, but different.
Okay.
Just get some random cards out here. So the first one is something that you can say while playing video games and
Mm-hmm.
after stepping in dog poop. So what is something or a
Am I allowed to
phrase?
swear?
Yeah.
I mean, oh shit's the easiest one.
So do you play a lot of video games by chance or dabble?
No, I tend to be surrounded by video gamers, but I, quite frankly, being a serial hobbyist, haven't found the time to fit that one in.
So I haven't done a ton of video games. Mario Kart, I've got it and kind of hyper focused on it until I'd beat every single CC level and got all
Mm-hmm.
4 stars for everything. Um, but where I've been sick the past few days, this war of mine has taken over my life at this moment. Because it's like I'm sick, I'm up at night with the kiddo, with the newborn. So I'm just going to play this. And it was $1.99 on the Switch instead of $40. So I'm like, all right, I'm going to try it out. Ooh, you want to talk about dark. It is dark. So you're playing as the survivors that are trapped in like a besieged city due to a civil war and stuff, and nothing good happens to you, like at all, ever. Um, which goes along with the theme, it's and the company that made it, like they made it to like honor the stories of the people that have actually went through these types of atrocities and stuff. But it's a rough one, but I love it so much because at its finest, it is a resource management and engine building, like at the purest mechanical level, because you have to navigate all of your characters like hunger and tired, and if they're sick and their wounds and their mood. And if you don't manage that, like for hunger, they can starve to death. With the mood, I've had several of my characters kind of just off themselves, just randomly. So that's been hard to deal with. Um, the If they're like super exhausted or anything like that, like they will not move. They won't do any of the tasks or anything like that. Like, so it
That'd be
makes it very
insane.
hard. Just yeah. But you have to like manage that. You have to manage the temperature that's in your shelter, and if you don't, then they're more likely to get sick, and that's just keeping your character alive. That's not going out gathering the resources and then deciding, hey, do I make a furnace that I need to be able to keep the heat on, or do I make food so my people don't starve to death? Like, so it's rough. It's rough, but
Yeah,
very good. I just started a custom one of it because like you can go in and do like your own story. So I maxed out the number of days that I have to survive, and I unlocked all 24 locations, just to kind of get a feel for all of them.
just because you're a glutton for punishment.
Yes, yes. So let's see what the next one is here. Something you can say while going to the bathroom and in the movie theater at the 50 Shades of Grey premiere.
The fact that this is going to be on recording, I'm surprised that much came out of me.
Let's see.
I'm so
Bathroom.
sorry, Mom.
Uh, More than twice, and you're playing with it.
What was the first one?
Something you can say while going to the bathroom, and then at the 50 Shades of Grey. So you shake it more than twice, you're playing with it.
Yeah. Yeah.
uh, something, something you can say to your movers, and while being twerked on.
Wow, you moved that so well.
Probably. Let me think. Just move to the left a little bit. Like,
Don't shake it that hard.
yeah. And then last one, something you can say while quitting your job and after running into your teacher at the grocery store.
Ooh, that's a hard one. I was never going to do that project anyway. Like, that's the most
Yeah,
overlap
yeah,
I got.
yeah. Like, I'm not going to do, yeah, I'm not going to work on that project. That'd be a good way to quit. Just the silent quitting.
Hmm.
Be like, nope, that's not my job description, which is completely valid, people. If it's not your
Yes.
job, don't do it.
Hmm.
And I'm not saying be
There's no need to
lazy. I'm
be doing
saying,
three people's jobs. Mm-mm.
yes, I'm not saying be lazy. That's not on my job description. No, if you're not being compensated for what you were providing, don't do it.
Correct. Yes. Preach.
Yes. Yes, that happens all the time working for the government. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just like, no, I don't want to do that. Talk to my
Hmm.
union rep.
Sounds like you need another person for that job because it's not me.
Yeah. So where can people find you at? What's your social media handles, your websites, all of that good stuff? Where can they
Mhm.
learn more about you, more about FoxHen Creatives and your game Trash Call?
They're interconnected, so my handle pretty much everywhere is Trash Cult Game. You can find the game specifically at trashcultgame.com, and then FoxHen stuff is all under foxhencreatives.com. And our links are all there to be found.
Very nice. Well, Hannah, thank you very much. And I can't wait to start showing people all of the artwork that you've done for my game. And I know Ben did a live the other day and was showing off all of the stuff that he was doing and making his prototypes to take to PAX with him. So it is exciting.
I am also excited. Thank you for trusting me with your game. Thanks for having me today. This has been really fun. So I really appreciate it.
Absolutely.